Hello, this is Mugwort again, doing another stream of the Crazyhouse Team League Season 8. This time we have a Board 1 clash between two duchies, Kleerkast and VariantsOnly. So they're playing 5+5. There's a short delay as usual. The game has only just started, so a 2-game match. d4, d5, Kleerkast has the white pieces in the first game. Knight f3, bishop g4, and knight e5. Already I'm out of book on move 3. Knight f6. So I would imagine Kleerkast is going to leave the bishop there and just develop bishop f4, e6, and now f3, bishop f5. So we're up to the live position. And seems like Kleerkast is fairly comfortable out of the opening. I think he'll just play bishop d3 and intend to castle. And the pawn on f3 will be quite useful to prevent knight e4. So typically black will look for an opportunity to play knight h5 at the right time to try and trade for this bishop on f4. And perhaps just bishop d6 first. The other thing is bishop b5 check annoying to prevent. Because tempo in this, even though it looks like there's nothing going on and there's no trades, tempo is quite important. Not to waste time via moves like a6. Only if you're really worried about this bishop b5 check. So, yeah, I mean, could even answer king f8, or is knight d7 okay? Knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes. So I'm not sure how he was going to respond to bishop b5. Mixu, good evening. Good afternoon, whatever it is. Yeah, so as predicted, knight h5 is coming very soon. Trying to trade for this bishop here and potentially stick the bishop back on e3. So white certainly does not want to castle. I wonder if it's okay just to come back bishop g3 and let him take here, h takes, and then possibly avoid castling. It's got to do something to cover the e3 square otherwise. So assuming bishop g3, no, he's gone bishop takes f5. So this is getting very sharp already, which is a bit surprising for a d4, d5 opening. So what happens after knight takes f4? E takes f4. E takes f5. Who does this favor? What does black have? Two bishops. The only real weakness there that I can see is e3. So he hasn't got knight takes f4. Okay. Yeah, because white would get the first drop on e3, bishop at f2 or bishop at e3. So, still it does remain a threat, knight takes f4, so he'll have to do something to cover. It's either bishop at g3 or bishop at g5. Perhaps he doesn't want to allow f6 when there's nothing to drop on f7. So I'd guess bishop at g3. It's a very unfamiliar position for me, but I can just recognize that you certainly don't want to leave a hole here on e3 unless something is covering it or there's something in your favor, like the e-file opening up for the queen. So you see Kleerkast is just keeping the bishop off board, because it may find another purpose rather than just supporting the other bishop on g3. Okay, black to play. I wonder how long VariantsOnly is going to leave this knight dangling out here on h5. So one thing you'll notice after white plays f3, it's quite committal in the sense that This diagonal for the queen's never going to be opened up, and the knight can actually just sit there for a while and wait for the right time to trade on f4. So, interesting move, bishop at a6. I think Kleerkast is just happy to trade and take back with the c-pawn. Does that really change the position much? It's uncertain at this stage. I think black will have to find a way to develop the knight somehow. I don't really think he wants to play knight c6 or knight d7 at the moment. So he thinks castling is safe. Alright. I think I agree at the moment. Yeah, what to do for white? Just knight c3 has a little bit of a target on d5. I'm not sure black wants to play c6 to defend it. So knight c6 instead. So trading is going to help him support the center pawn. I don't really think knight takes d5 is a good idea due to bishop takes a knight, and then the knight on d5 is hanging. And there is a threat to take on f4 and then knight takes d4, so white will have to do something about this. Perhaps put the bishop back on f2. Does this leave something hanging? I feel like something's hanging after bishop at f2. Perhaps you could do it the other way and go knight takes d4 first in that case. So trading is the safer option. And then perhaps something at e5. Bishop at e5 would be my guess. Yeah, so how does VariantsOnly want to trade pieces? What about bishop takes? Is he going to take with the pawn? Because if he does, then this d4 move might be interesting. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and then push d4. What else? Bishop takes is also possible. And then in that case, white would still have a bishop and knight off board, so f6 could then be answered by something, either knight or bishop at e6 looks good for white. So instead it was knight at g6, trading on d6 and then bishop back on g3. So at some point there's going to be a whole series of trades, and then it's just a question of who it favors. Chess Kibitzer 2020 is asking, he said he's always wanted to join the league but never worked out where to join. It's always too late in the season. Well, if you know a way to follow the finisher, his forum posts on Lichess, then do that. Otherwise, you have to keep checking, well, either the house Discord server, I'm sure this Mixer can tell you where to go, or what else? How would you see notifications about the Crazyhouse Team League? I mean, Mixu sends out group messages or individual messages. Maybe there's some way he can do it all at once. I'm not sure. So what's just happened? Rook e8. Now this massive threat to take on f4. So the bishop takes d6. There's now nothing to hit f4. Yeah, I was about to say without even seeing the move f4. It's a clever little move to separate these bishops, and then if something takes, then you start chopping all the pieces on f4. So Kleerkast has gone knight at f5, bishop at c8, knight takes g7. Now it's getting wild. He's got to do something to avoid knight takes h5, so he's taken with the king. Bishop f4. Surely you take this twice. Could throw in a pawn at h6 check, I guess. Probably doesn't make too much difference. So it does look good for black. Pawn at f6, queen takes. What's the idea? I mean, knight at h5. No, it's not the idea. Well, it could potentially be if knight takes e2. So it's a clever little intermezzo, pawn at e5, because the idea is you can then go e takes f4 and then there's no open e-file. So it comes with the tempo on the queen. Would you go rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes? Or is that sacking too much material? Because if you play something like queen g6, then you allow another pawn drop with check, and then e takes f4 is coming. And white has an awful lot of pawns for the bishops that he's down. There's a lot of sacking going on in this game. The team situation is that VariantsOnly only needs one draw, because it's the first to 6.5 points out of 12 for their team to take the match. So this is a board 1 match, and it is the last of the 6 boards. So black to play. Tough question, what to do, to move the queen or to sack the rook on e5. And I could be missing something obvious after rook takes and queen takes. Pawn at f6 check, for instance, could be nasty. And queen takes, knight at e8 check. So black has gone pawn at f2, hoping something is going to work out, like maybe knight at g4 check and then a double check on d3. So I'd be looking at knight at g4 check, but I guess the king can still just run back to e1. Oh, he's gone queen g6. So I assume Kleerkast is going to drop a pawn here until the king reaches the light square, and then because there is a threat, he's going to have to take the knight on f4. He does it without. I guess you can leave this pawn drop on f6 for the right time. So the knight on f5 is useful in defense to cover both e7 and h6. The king can now step back to g8 without having to sack the rook on e7. So knight at g4 unexpected. What's this? I don't know what it's for. He's trying to stop bishop at e3 check. I guess it'll help set up some knight at h6 check eventually. I think black has to defend. Bishop at f8 is my first thought. Pawn at g7. Uh-oh, he's got to get rid of this knight, and then there's a threat. Knight at h6. How does he get rid of the knight? Even sack the queen somehow for the knight, but how? Wow, that's creative. Knight at h8. Queen's just going to move out of the way. Queen h5, or what am I missing? Seems like black is just holding on. Queen takes f7. Alright, here we go. So the square h6 is key. Maybe knight at h6. Check. Doesn't really help, does it? Knight at h6 is about the best I can see. Bishop at h5. But he has to cover the square h6. No. Alright, I still think white, because of all those pawns, he's probably doing better after knight at h6. Trading off a pair of knights. Mixu's saying, what is 12 AM again? Is it 1200? It must be 2400. Or is it 0000? PKNM Bugzilla. PKNM just posted. 6th of July, 12 AM. Oh, that's the same as, hang on, 12 AM. 12 AM is the same as 0000, like as in midnight. So GMT, that's what, 10 AM Sydney time? That's in about 10 hours, is it? So So 31, pawn at e4, hard to get out of it. Yeah, and knight at h6 was about the best I could find, but I still think white had the advantage. So let's just come back to move 1, e4, knight f6, and now I forgot who won. Oh no, Kleerkast won with the white pieces. So VariantsOnly still needs a draw. He's got the white pieces this time. d4, d5, e5, knight e4, bishop b5. Bishop d7, very unusual. I normally see the bishop come out this way to f5. So very unusual to see this bishop d7. He's trying to set up some knight takes e5 possibly. Knight ge2. So keeping the bishop supported in case of a knight trade. So that knight takes e5 probably doesn't work. E6 instead, take, and knight g3, and this move is also a little bit unusual because you normally see castles followed by f3 with this sort of structure. So knight g3, bishop at a6. I like this move, bishop at a6. It's very good timing to play this move after knight g3 to stop castling. So he's trying to make white waste a knight on d3 or e2, something like this, because white would preferably like to put a pawn on d3, but obviously doesn't have one, and it's not coming anytime soon. So queen f3 was just played. Yeah, Finish is saying in the chat, a radical posture is the name of the team from VariantsOnly, and don't know what Clearcast team name is. Some of the teams are called Team 1 and Team 2. So let's just have queen f3. Knight takes, queen takes. And then where does the knight belong? I mean, h4 is typical. h4 trying to entice rook g1. But this must be good for black. I mean, black just looks totally comfortable. There's no weaknesses to speak of. You notice the bishop hasn't moved from f8, so there's none of this typical dark square attacks with knight at h5 and knight at f6. So knight at e4 also looks good for black. So if the queen moves, I assume black is trying to set up some bishop b4 check at the right time. I'm just not sure whether you do it now. I say if queen e3, bishop b4, c3. Do you really get anything out of that? Oh yeah, you do, because you can trade the knight on g3. And then there's a hole on c2 to stick it back. But then the queen can take. Alright, so we're not going to see anything like that. Knight takes, d takes, knight at f4. Knight at b5, a very good move again. Seems so many knight drops which are tempting, but this must be one of the best ones. I was looking at crazy options involving queen h4 or queen g5, sacking a queen and then dropping the two knights on f3 and g2 and taking the bishop back. It's all possible when you have a safe king. The three bishops really helping to keep the black king safe. And the lack of development is actually not hurting black at all. So I think it's already decisive. I think Kleerkast is going to even up the team match 6-all. I can't see him losing this one. So just knight takes d4 covers the sack on e6 and also threatens knight takes c2. It's actually mate in one, isn't it? Knight takes c2. So I can't see what's stopping him playing knight takes d4 immediately. VariantsOnly saying, bemoaning his play. Why am I playing so bad? Yeah, it's a great game from Kleerkast. I think not a single mistake that I've noticed. Did VariantsOnly have to trade for the knight on c6? That's one of my main questions. I mean, he's worried about some tactic with knight takes e5, I guess. Normally doesn't work with your knights supporting each other on e2 and c3 though. Because that was the move that activated all black's pieces and gave him the extra bishop to put on a6. I really think he should have castled after that when he had the chance instead of knight g3. So black to play, I guess he's just looking for a finish. Any easy way to finish this game? I like queen g5. This does look a wee bit gash, right enough, says Malonk. Queen g5, there we go. Oh dear, what to do to defend this knight? It's also preparing the way for castling queenside. Finisher was saying he's thinking bishop b4, c3, and pawn at e2. So pawn at e2 with the idea of knight c2 and queen d1 checkmate. That's tricky. Yeah, pretty hard to stop. I guess bishop d2 or something in that case. But yeah, the pawn is so well supported by the bishop on a6 as well as the knight on d4. But yeah, queen g5, I can't suggest anything. Queen g3, trade queens. Take, h takes. Is there a mate? With the knight on f4 covering e2, I can't see a direct mate. Unless bishop b4 is really strong. Or if queen g3, was he going to take the knight and then knight takes c2 and knight at d3? Does that work? I don't know. Yeah, Mylon's saying the light squares is getting punished on the light squares. Look at this bishop. Unopposed since it landed on a6 in the first place. That was about 8 moves ago. Yeah, move 8. So pawn at c3. It's about time to start looking for forced mates, isn't it? Finish is suggesting queen takes g2. Ouch. Looks painful. With knight at f3 check to follow. That looks very painful. I think that's just over, isn't it? Or what about queen h5 check followed by knight? No, you can't. Well, it depends. There's still too many knights for f3. Yeah, knight at f3 check is just unstoppable. So that might be it. Wow, this is a clinical game from Kleerkast. Amazing, amazing game. All the way from start to finish. Yeah, resign time. So the knight covers e6. There was never time for white to take it. And knight at f3 check is just too strong. So, yeah, I think one of the key moments is allowing this bishop to land on a6. So castling, I think, is essential here on move 8. I don't know, perhaps he was worried about trading a knight and then knight at h4 or something, but he had to do it. But castles followed by f3 is typically what you do with this knight on e4. And then there'd eventually be a trade here, and you can take back with the knight, or even take back with the pawn if you want to save the knight for g3 or f4 later. So let's go to the pairings for a moment. And we'll see if they've been updated. So that's Radical Posture versus the Glass Bead Gamers. The score is 6 games all, because that was the last game there at the top. So somehow it started game 2 before game 1. I don't know. I know that I see the colours here. So Kleerkast had the white pieces in the first game. And we also had a board 5 match. JoannaTries versus Stephanie S. Symphony. Shall we take a look to see if that's still going, or see if it started? Let's come back. Alright, so we have a bonus game. Not following either of these players. Let's follow Stephanie. Is it Stephanie underscore or dash? There we go. Maybe she's still playing. Alright, let's go back to this mode. Quite a few people watching. So I'm not going to go back to the team score. I think someone was winning 7-2. So I guess this is the second game. It's 9 plus 9, so even the first game could be still going, but I guess this is the second one. Already up to move 44. I'm not going to go all the way back to move 0. So Stephanie took the first one with the white pieces. And looks like the black king is super safe. Oh, actually, this is just game over, isn't it? It's the material advantage. So many extra pieces. Thanks, guys. Okay, and John Lee also in the chat. We're going to see mate in 2 or 3 moves, I guess. Thanks, Nightmare Griffon, for the follow. So we'll jump back to the team scores in a moment. Joanna's team winning, was it? Says okay. I just noticed in a flash someone was leading 7-2. Was that right? Was that Joanna's team? But just wanted to come back to the game before it finished. So queen on g2, that is game over. Alright, so it looks like the finish was convincing. Maybe we should just come back to see what I think the critical moment might have been. Just quickly. It seems like Joanna's already sacked a bishop on c4. Thank you. So John Lee says, congratulations on qualifying into CWC candidates. So that was the 6-3 result over Master 10. Cheskabitsa 2020 saying, I'm the same as Nelson Moore, who sponsored that event on chess.com in April 2018. Yes, how could I forget it? Because that was my single best result in any tournament ever. So I remember John Lee and Oppa both playing. I had 2 draws against them, and I had 7 wins against everybody else. And it was outright first, wasn't it? I think John and Oppa came equal second? Let's keep going, because if white can trade a bishop here, then bishop at g7 could be dangerous, I suppose. That's a nice defensive move, bishop at h8. a3, knight e7, b4. Yeah, I mean, you have to try and break down these dark square defenders, but it's not so easy when you have already sacrificed a piece. I mean, it makes some sense to try and trade off for another bishop. b4, knight takes, pawn takes, knight f4. Very powerful square. Reminded me of the game I had against Master 10. Obviously one of the black games. It must have been game number 6, I think it was. where he threatened my queen, and then I played bishop to h3, and I had this knight at e2 threat. So bishop at g7, take. Black now super solid, and can play knight at h3, pick up a piece. No, prefers queen f8. Take, pawn at e7. Oh, actually, I don't know whether I would have allowed this. But probably still safe now on the light squares. Take. Knight g5 is coming. But the only trick I can see now is rook takes and bishop at f7. It may not be enough. It did happen in the game. But now it could probably just clear the back rank, unless there's a mate threat. Knight at h3, take. Queen covers the other knight checks. It's close with the rook at h1, pawn at g2, knight at h4. Probably not enough. Move 31, find the mates is okay. So can black do something to defend knight at h6 and queen at e8 and knight at e7? Actually, these squares are not so easy. So let's try to find the most accurate move. I'm not using the engine here, okay? It's a tough ask to defend everything. What about bishop at f8? Does that work as a defense? Bishop at f8, knight at h6, bishop takes, queen at h8, then you can king takes f7. Oh, she just took the knight and thought she was safe. Okay, what's going on here? She couldn't go back to g8. Queen at f7, king h8, isn't that okay? Why go forwards? King f6. I'm looking for move 31. Queen at f7, king takes knight. This game is a lot more exciting, because if you look when I first joined, right, move 44, then obviously it was all over then, but this game is a lot more exciting than I first thought. So h4 check, king takes h4, and now OK says find the mate. King takes f7 was best move, but she should have gone back, surely. Back to g8. Because now it's not looking too healthy. Yes, OK saying should have gone back to g8. Alright, so I'm assuming queen takes f4 is not the move, because that's what happened in the game. But OK is saying find the mate. Okay, I'm trying not to look. I'm trying to find the mate. I mean, queen takes f4 is by far my first candidate move, so what else is there? Queen e7 check. g3 check. But then there's king h3, isn't that just winning for black? Don't see any other checks. So queen takes f4 check would be my choice. I'm trying not to look at the chat. Pawn at g4. So there's got to be some tricky queen sack here, but I'm not quite seeing it. Or maybe it was queen e7. Because one of the key diagonals is this one here, from d1 to h5. So I don't want that to be blocked out if I'm playing for white. So what about g3? g3, king h5. Yeah, got no better ideas than playing queen h2 check. But then king g5, isn't white just safe? So probably queen e7 here. Again, I'm not looking at the chat at the moment. Probably queen e7 here. Let's say something pawn blocks on f6. And then is g3 good enough, or is king h3? You still can't take a piece with check. All you need to take is a pawn for g2. No, this is fascinating. And I'm trying to get some move like queen h5 to work here, but it just king takes and then got no more checks. So queen e7. I still don't really see anything after pawn blocks on f6. Unless you can do something like queen f3 after that. And then you're threatening queen takes f6 check and pawn at g3 and f takes g3 to mate. Because queen f3 probably stops all the mates. But then there's knight e2 check, king h2, pawn at g3, take, queen takes, knight takes. Oh, this is too hard. Oh, hang on, g3, king h3, this queen h5. Take. Oh, is that it? Just g3, king h3, queen h5, take. Oh, okay, it wasn't that hard after all. So g3, pawn takes, f takes. Ah, there's no need to calculate, that should be easy enough. Too many queens. Alright, so is that it? Just g3 and queen h5? Alright, so I'm looking at the chat now. There's a few people suggesting g3 a long time ago. I got too distracted with queen e7 and trying to find a way to take a pawn with check. But yeah, g3. So it's an x-ray queen sack with queen h5 and queen takes h5. Yeah, wow, amazing stuff. Had no idea that there were such spectacular tactics in this game, because I'll show you where I joined, right? So the king, I'm just assuming what's happening. The king's chased all the way back. Joanna must have been desperate to sack a queen or two queens. She must have just missed this. But yeah, black is just starting to drop stuff everywhere. Yeah, and then it's too much material. So I joined it on about move 44, but yeah, that was a hidden gem, so thanks okei for pointing that. Otherwise I might have just missed that altogether because I'm not using the engine to analyze. So maybe you can tell Joanna. Oh, I see that she's streaming. I wonder if she found it herself after the game. Right, gonna stop it here. I'll just quickly go back to that team match, which was ZHIT Happens versus Team 2, and that is now a 7-3 lead to the former team, which, so it's Joanna's team that's still leading 7-3. And that has been decided, but there's still one match to go, PKR versus Variant Bunny. That's happening, what's that, Tuesday afternoon? Or was it Wednesday morning, UTC time? Wednesday morning. UTC time, so it must be 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. And still a few matches to go in the top two teams. Finisher versus Operation will be a exciting one, but it's 3 a.m. my time, Tuesday or Monday afternoon, UTC. So it's Monday morning, pretty early. I don't have any teaching to do tomorrow, or on Monday rather, but still have to make an appearance at work, so I'll call it a night. And thanks everybody for watching, and thanks okei for pointing out that challenging puzzle. So take care. Hope to be streaming some more matches. I've got a bit more free time in the next couple of weeks than I have in the last 7 or 8 weeks. So yeah, I'll find a few more timely matches to stream, but certainly not this one at 3 a.m. Okay, so have a good Sunday if it's still your morning or afternoon, and see you next time.